Okay, in this video, let's talk about one of the worst problems in golf, the shank chip shot. What causes it, how to cure it, and some drills you can do to stay on track. So indeed, the dreaded shank chip shot, where the club's coming from the inside, typically runs into the hosel and just sends it off to the right. Some people just kind of work their way around the green, shanking away. That really is frustrating for a lot of players, and I can see why. But good chipping is right around the corner. All you have to know is the causes of these problems. So let's just go through the two main causes that really crop up for most players. And so if you've had this problem shanking, then you have a couple things going on. One is the path of the club is probably off, the angle of attack is off. And then lastly, just the fear and trepidation is causing you to grip it very, very tightly, and that really changes the flow of the swing as well. So what we mean by the plane being off is that if I'm going down this line where the stick is on the ground, the plane of the swing that would work well is something like this. It's going back on plane, face nice and square, club comes back into the ball like so, and easily sends it down my target line like that. Now for most players, they're coming from the inside when they have a problem, and a couple things happen when you come from the inside. One is the club simply is off plane, running the hosel into the ball inside out. And the other is the club simply isn't getting to the ground, so it's just hovering, coming more up at the ball this way, which then can blade it or shank it. So if you're coming from the inside too far, once again, you can run the hosel into the ball and then shank it off to the right, or simply blade it because the club never gets to the ground. Conversely, if you get a little bit of a loop outside this way and you start to come into the ground, if you stop the handle too quickly, the club will still sort of swing up back in the air as your wrist cup this way, blades it or shanks it. So one thing you want to really make sure is when you're practicing, you find a way to get your club to the ground. And by that, I mean the club itself has to come up and then back down. Now you can do that with a little bit of wrist action, or you can do it with less wrist action where it's just sort of a neutral position here going back and through. But either way, the club itself has to get back to the ground. If you don't strike the turf, that leading edge isn't going to get under the ball to get the club in position to strike the sort of the center or get the ball into the sweet spot. As you're practicing, make sure that as you're going back and through, you're on a good path, of course, but you are hitting the turf. Now the bounce of the club is supposed to be hitting the ground before the ball, not the leading edge. And if you're having trouble with this shot, you could be trying to hit with a leading edge, or there might be another problem sort of with your sort of understanding of how a wedge works. But that set aside, we want to make sure that you can get this cured pretty quickly and at least get back onto better chipping so you're not hitting them that way all day. So a great drill to do is simply to set the club down with it closed like this. And as you close a club face, you will see that as you close it, the hosel then moves out of the way and away from the golf ball. And if you open the face, it actually moves toward the golf ball. And I know there's a good reason for opening the club face, to getting some height and some spin on the ball sometimes. However, for this shot, if you're really struggling, and you know who you are, you're really struggling with these shank chip shots, we have to get that hosel out of the way. So for a drill, put that club down, actually grip it closed in your hands, set it down and chip these balls off to the left. And what you'll find is the toe right down here, the toe of the club will be digging into the ground like this. And that's a chipping style some people use. They actually chip with the toe down and the heel up. You've probably heard of a player named Paul Runyon, who was a great short game instructor and a great player back in the Sam Snead era. And he used to teach chipping with the toe down and the heel up. And that is a great way to get the hosel completely out of the picture and chip off the toe. Certainly a drill you could do as well. But for this drill, and you're using a 60-degree wedge or a 56-degree wedge, and you're trying to get your chipping back on track, this is all about getting the club into the ground, getting some ground contact with, like I said, when you're shanking, the club's coming through, never touching the ground, and just sends it off to the right. So we want to make sure that as you're practicing, you can start to strike some turf and become confident that it's not going to go right. So if they take off to the left, it won't bother you a bit at first, and then you can slowly work on gripping it. Instead of it super closed club face, start barely putting it back to a little more open or square, and then fully square at this point. Now from this angle, we can see a little more of where the club is at impact in terms of the shaft position. So we know bad chippers tend to chip with the hands way too far forward, and that leading edge starts to dig in. So make sure you're setting up pretty neutral to begin with. That'll make sure the bounce will work if you get the club to the ground. And then start working on the path. Make sure it's straight back and through. It's not working crazy to the inside or outside. And super critical, like we said from the other angle, this club face position. especially in the takeaway. You have to make sure that this face is staying nice and square as it goes back. Then as it comes through, if you start working on getting that toe into the ground, so work the drill of getting the toe into the ground, start hitting a few shots with it about 45 degrees closed. You can see there this ball is going to shoot straight off to the left when I hit it. And you can do this depending on your chipping style. You can use a little wrist action to do that. You can do it completely sort of wooden with just sort of a shoulder pendulum style. It won't matter as long as that club is closed enough that the toe will interact with the ground, and you'll start to see sort of some chunking going on there, and the ball will shoot to the left. This will get the shank out of there, provided that your grip pressure is light enough you can carry the club on through. Then after you get that going, maybe close it halfway and eventually then go back to square, working on getting that sort of contact with the ground. And you'll notice right away if you start hitting them to the left, your confidence will go up. If you're hitting shank chips, your confidence is dead zero anyway. You're shaking them off there, you're just sort of scared to hit the ball and just grabbing, hanging on for dear life when you're chipping. But when you start to hit them to the left, your confidence will at least start to go up, and then you can work on changing the face a little more to square and hit better shots. Lastly, you have to work on the actual grip pressure, because players that are shanking are just hanging on for dear life. They're coming down and just gripping it like crazy. So make sure that you do work on your grip pressure at some point. And to do that, just make sure that your hands are not tightening as you come through. And if you have any friends that are really, really big grippers and sort of chipping, you'll see them sort of shrink into the ball and everything gets crazy tight, and then they flip it. Tops, shanks, skulls, all the kind of crazy shots that happen when you increase your grip pressure a lot coming in. Even with these drills, you have to have enough freedom in your hands and wrists to let the club come on through, let your body turn a little, let the grip move on through to allow the club to come through and send the ball off to the left. Even this drill, if I was to do this drill with the face closed, if I grip it tight enough and stop this handle too much back here, the club will swing back up in the air, and I'm just going to top it and send it across the green. Okay, well, that's going to wrap it up for this video, how to cure the shank chip shot. Just a reminder, if it is your first time to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, and if you like the video, hit the like button as well. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.